They say the devil is in the details, and in fashion, every detail matters. Who sits where, who wears what, and most importantly, who gets invited. October 4th, 2025, Balenciaga's Paris Fashion Week show. Cameras flash as Meghan Markle takes her seat in an all-white cape ensemble. The media goes wild. But something's off, because just days later, the designer himself drops a bombshell in an interview that changes everything. She wasn't invited. She invited herself, and she paid for the entire trip with money that wasn't hers. Now Balenciaga wants nothing to do with her. Harry's reportedly enraged. And the truth behind that glamorous facade? It's worse than anyone imagined. Because this isn't just about fashion. It's about desperation, deception, and a royal title being used like a credit card that's about to be declined. Let's rewind to October 4th, Paris, the fashion capital of the world. Balenciaga is unveiling their Spring 2026 collection under new creative director Pierpaolo Piccioli. It's his debut show for the brand. High stakes, high profile, everyone who's anyone is there. And then, fashionably late as always, Meghan Markle arrives. She's draped in an all-white ensemble, a dramatic floor-length cape, matching trousers, a crisp button-down shirt, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. The look screams effortless elegance. Or at least that's what it's supposed to scream. She takes her seat in the front row. The photographers swarm. You can practically hear the PR machine firing up. Headlines start rolling in within minutes. Meghan's triumphant return to Europe. Duchess stuns at Paris Fashion Week. Markle makes Fashion Week debut. This is her first time at Paris Fashion Week, ever. And it's her first time back in Europe since 2022. That's significant because for someone who's been essentially exiled from royal duties and kept a low profile across the pond, this is a bold move. The show begins. Models walk. The collection is unveiled, and Meghan sits there, front and center, soaking it all in. Later that evening, she changes into a second Balenciaga look, a strapless gown, more photos, more headlines. On the surface, it looks like a fashion fairy tale, a duchess reclaiming her place in high society, a collaboration between a beloved royal and a luxury brand. But here's the thing about fairy tales. They're not real. Right after the show, Meghan's team released a statement. Let me read you exactly what it said, because the wording here, it matters. The Duchess has long admired his craftsmanship and modern elegance, and tonight was no different. This evening reflects the culmination of many years of artistry and friendship reflected in her support for his new creative chapter at Balenciaga. The statement goes on. It mentions how she's worn Pierpaolo's designs over the years, how they've worked closely together, collaborating on designs for key moments on the world stage. Sounds impressive, right? Sounds like a partnership, like she belongs there. But read it again, slowly. Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say she was invited. It doesn't say Balenciaga reached out. It doesn't say the brand requested her presence or her endorsement. Those words, nowhere to be found. Instead, it focuses on her admiration for him, her support for him, her friendship with him. The statement is carefully crafted to imply invitation without actually claiming it. It's PR speak at its finest, and most media outlets fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Royal reporters started tweeting. Balenciaga invited Meghan Markle to Paris Fashion Week. Fashion journalists joined in. Duchess of Sussex guests at Balenciaga show by invitation. And that's where this story gets interesting, because just days after the show, Pierpaolo Piccioli himself gave an interview. And what he revealed, it contradicts everything. Pierpaolo Piccioli, the man of the hour, Balenciaga's new creative director, fresh from Valentino, where he spent 25 years building his reputation. This Paris show was his introduction to the world as Balenciaga's vision keeper. And apparently, Meghan Markle wanted to be part of that introduction. In an interview, Pierpaolo casually mentions, almost offhandedly, that he's been texting with Meghan for years. Years. Not a one-off conversation, not a recent connection, years of back and forth communication. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for Team Sussex. He confirms, in his own words, that she reached out to him about attending the show. She initiated contact. She expressed interest in being there. She essentially invited herself. Now, if you're thinking this sounds familiar, you'd be right. Remember the Vogue situation? 2019, Meghan guest edited the September issue of British Vogue. It was presented as this huge honor, Vogue asking the Duchess to curate their most important issue of the year. Except that's not what happened. Vogue's editor-in-chief at the time later revealed in an interview that Meghan invited him to Kensington Palace under the pretense of discussing charity work, specifically SmartWorks, the organization that she was patronizing. He shows up, they exchange pleasantries, and then before they can even get into the charity discussion, she pivots. Can I guess that at Vogue? Just like that. No subtlety, no buildup, just a direct ask that put him in an impossible position. Because what's he supposed to say? No to a working royal? To someone married into the British monarchy? At that time, Meghan was still backed by the palace, still protected by the institution. Saying no could jeopardize his relationship with the entire royal family. So he said yes, and Meghan got her vote cover. Or rather, she got to curate a cover that famously didn't include her own face. A move that was praised as humble, but felt more like strategic brand positioning. The pattern's clear. Meghan uses her proximity to royalty to gain access. She leverages her husband's title to open doors that otherwise would remain closed. And she does it in a way that makes it look like she was invited, like she was wanted, like she belongs in these spaces. But the truth, she's forcing her way in. So she invited herself to Paris. That's bad enough, but it gets worse, much worse. When you invite yourself to an event, especially of this caliber, you don't get the perks. You don't get the brand paying for your travel. You don't get the 5-star hotel suite comped. You pay for everything yourself. And according to sources close to the situation, that's exactly what happened. Meghan paid for the flights. She paid for the accommodations. She paid for her entourage, including her longtime friend and fixer, Marcus Anderson. She paid for everything. Except here's the kicker. She didn't use her own money. The funds allegedly came from the Archwell Foundation. Yes, the charitable organization that she and Harry founded, the one that's supposed to be funding humanitarian efforts and mental health initiatives. That Archwell. Some sources also suggest money from the Invictus Games Foundation was used. The Invictus Games, Harry's passion project, the sporting event for wounded veterans that he's dedicated years of his life to building. If true, this isn't just tacky, it's potentially illegal misuse of charitable funds. And let's talk about those flights. Meghan couldn't secure a private jet. Nobody wanted to lend her one. Not a luxury brand, not a single wealthy friend. So she flew commercial. First class, obviously, but still commercial. Can you imagine the Duchess of Sussex squished into a first-class cabin with her team while regular passengers walk by snapping photos? Her security detail? They flew coach, separate from her, in the back of the plane because she couldn't afford to upgrade them. And when she arrived in Paris, she didn't have private security. None. Harry's been fighting tooth and nail in UK courts for taxpayer-funded police protection, arguing they're not safe without it. But Meghan went to Paris, a city with no shortage of security concerns, with absolutely no personal protection. Instead, she relied on Balenciaga's VIP security, the bodyguards they provide for all their high-profile guests at shows. That tall guy you saw walking her, not her bodyguard. He's Balenciaga's. On loan for the event only. She couldn't afford proper security, she couldn't afford private travel, but she could afford to show up and play dress-up at a fashion show. And those clothes she wore, the all-white cape ensemble, the evening gown, allegedly, they weren't hers, loaned. Word on the street says they were on loan from Balenciaga, meaning she had to give them back. If that's true, that's why they didn't fit properly. That's why the tailoring looked off in some photos. They weren't custom-made for her body. They were pulled from samples and loaned out. No adjustments, no alterations, just wear and return. If that's the case, brand ambassadors aren't treated this way. Invited guests aren't treated this way either. This is how someone paying their own way and asking for favors gets treated. Now let's talk about Harry, because if these reports are accurate, he's not just upset, he's enraged. Imagine finding out your wife used funds from your charitable foundation to finance a vanity trip to Paris Fashion Week. Imagine discovering she dipped into money meant for wounded veterans so she could sit front row at a luxury brand's runway show. That's not a minor disagreement, that's a betrayal. Sources say Harry was blindsided. He didn't approve the trip, he didn't know about the financial arrangements, and when he found out, the confrontation was explosive. This is a man who spent years building Invictus Games from the ground up. It's his legacy, his way of giving back to the military community after his own service. Every dollar that goes into that foundation is supposed to honor veterans, to support their recovery, to give them a platform, not to fund his wife's fashion fantasies. And here's the cruel irony. While Meghan's gallivanting around Paris without security, Harry's in UK courts arguing they can't visit Britain because it's too dangerous without police protection. He's claiming they need taxpayer-funded security to set foot in his home country. But Paris? The city where his mother lost her life? The city that should be, by his own logic, just as dangerous, if not more so. Meghan went there without a second thought, without private security, without even mentioning it to him first, apparently. The optics are devastating, and Harry knows it. Their marriage, according to insiders, is hanging by a thread. This Paris incident might be the final straw. But wait, there's more. Here's something that makes this even more disturbing. Friends of Meghan have revealed that she's told them repeatedly that Paris is off limits for her and Harry, that they'd never go there together, and that it's too painful because of what happened to Diana. Princess Diana, Harry's mother, the woman who died in a Paris tunnel in 1997 while being chased by paparazzi. The tragedy that shaped Harry's entire life, the trauma he carries with him every single day. Meghan knew this. She acknowledged it. She respected it, or at least she claimed to. But the moment an opportunity arose to boost her own profile, all that went out the window. She went to Paris anyway, without Harry, without his blessing, and then she posted that video. You know the one, the backseat of a limo, her feet up, acting like she's living her best life in the city where her mother took her last breath. The tone deafness is staggering. The cruelty, intentional or not, is unforgivable. Some are speculating this was revenge, payback for something. Maybe it was the Kevin Costner event a few weeks ago where Harry reportedly stopped Meghan from taking the microphone and speaking. Maybe it was a financial argument. Maybe it was something else entirely. But the timing is suspicious, and the location is deliberate. You don't accidentally end up in Paris. You don't accidentally book a fashion show appearance in the one city your husband has explicitly said he can't emotionally handle. This was a choice, a calculated one, and it's blowing up in her face. So where does this leave us? Meghan Markle invited herself to Paris Fashion Week, allegedly using charitable funds. She couldn't afford proper security or private transportation. The designer is now distancing himself from her. Harry's furious, and the cracks in their carefully constructed public image are turning into canyons. This isn't just bad PR. If this is true, this is a pattern of using her husband's royal title to gain access she wouldn't otherwise have, a pattern of manipulating situations to look like invitations when they're actually intrusions, a pattern of spending money that isn't hers on vanity projects while claiming to be humanitarians. The Vogue debacle, the Balenciaga disaster. How many more times can she pull this stunt before the doors stop opening altogether? Balenciaga, a brand already struggling with its own reputation issues, wants nothing to do with the mess she created. Pierpaolo is making that clear. The fashion industry is taking note, and the message is being received loud and clear. Meghan Markle is no longer an asset. She's a liability. Harry's patience is running out. The money's running out. The goodwill is long gone. And that royal title she's been trading on, it's starting to feel more like a curse than a currency. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. The glamorous photos were staged. The designer didn't invite her. The trip was allegedly financed with charity money, and the marriage everyone thought was a modern fairy tale, it's crumbling behind closed doors. The devil really is in the details. And these details, they're damning. So what happens next? Does Harry finally put his foot down? Does Meghan face consequences if he misused charitable funds? Do more brands officially distance themselves? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain, the facade is cracking. And what's underneath? It's not pretty.